Hello, everybody. Super glad to be here today. My name is Jeremy Spund. I am with Teton Ridge, and we have a really cool panel talking about evolution of influence, creator brand, and the new era of sports engagement. So over the last couple of days, I got a chance to speak with four of these awesome marketers, and I will actually let them introduce themselves.
My name is Dion Wolcott. I am the Director of Partnerships for Pensole College, which is a design college here, the first historically black college to reopen, and the first historically black college to be focused on design.
So we're in Detroit, so we say, what up, though? My name is AJ. I'm brand and lifestyle marketing. I'm on Bilal's team. I've been with the Pistons I'm going into my 11th season, so I must be doing something right. I'm still here. So I get the opportunity to oversee lifestyle and working with a lot of our influencers and celebrities and trying to do some cool things to make the brand look culturally relevant.
Hi, I'm Sellentine. I'm with Alfa Romeo. I'm the brand marketing manager, and it's an Italian brand, so we say ciao. We can work on something together. We can collab. But Alfa Romeo is a premium brand from Stellantis. There's 14 different brands. We're the premium brand, the sexiest brand, I would say, too. And I'm excited to be here. I'm going to pass this on.
Hey guys, I'm Lauren with Ally, Director, Sports and Entertainment Marketing. I'm super excited to be here. We have an amazing team, of course, but my verticals that we focus on are all things racing and all things golf in the sports marketing category.
Awesome. So super nice to meet you all and happy to be on this panel. Going to jump right in and kind of hit on the influencer side and understanding in sports and entertainment marketing, how do you navigate the delicate balance between maintaining authenticity and delivering effective brand messaging when you're collaborating with creators and influencers and athletes? I think the question is particularly pertinent, more so because given that a lot of high-profile partnerships, they especially involve, well-paid celebrities and athletes, and sometimes they can come across as, inauthentic. So, or an instance of potentially disconnect when a luxury athlete is, promoting a product or, someone who's very known wealthy and he's pushing a debt consolidation business. So how, in a sense, does your organization address the challenges to ensure that influencer collaborations resonate genuinely and with your target audience, but at the same time are accomplishing your marketing goals?
All right, so I'll kick it off. So I'm going to give you guys two examples. So one, if you know Ally, you know that DEI is it's the ethos of our brand, right? So in the wake of all the social injustice that was happening in 2020, Bernard Pollard, who's a former NFLer, Super Bowl champ, he saw what NASCAR was doing by banning the Confederate flag at all tracks, took to his social accounts, was just really commending them, really said, hey, this is a sport I think I want to get into now and learn more about. So he was, chatting with the fans, learning about all the lingo and the technology. He got himself an iRacing rig. He was racing, and we noticed that and said, wow, would be amazing if we can partner up with him, help tell his story, and by telling his story, we can help make the NASCAR more accessible and more relatable to people who once thought, oh, well, I don't know if I'm necessarily welcome at a track. I don't think that's for me, which has been amazing. Through again, the content that we shoot with him, we are able to give fans that, behind the scenes look in a fun way, because not everybody can get to the track every weekend. Again, making it accessible, making it relatable, him telling his story. So that was just one way of just organically he became part of the Ally family, and helping to tell that story and helping to talk about inclusion in the sport of racing. The second example I'll give, so of course we're an online bank, and we will never approach an influencer and have them just, create content that says, well, open up an account, because I did. We'll never do that. That's super inauthentic. Instead, how we approach it is we want to tell stories. We want to tell stories about money, because sometimes money is hard to talk about, right? So we got to make it relatable. But to your point, we're not looking at, so Alex Bowman, who's the driver that we sponsor in the 48, we have him tell stories through an authentic way of like when he was a kid growing up, being part of two mom and dad weren't together. Like, how did he grow up learning about money? Like, how did it differ? What was his first job? Things like that. We also, on the USGA side, we have a content series called Beyond the Green. So what we do is we've worked with some of these up and coming talents that are on the LPGA tour. One young lady who just won her first LPGA event, Bailey Tardy, it was amazing. She literally was like, I was broke, and like now I can go buy my first house. So it was just, again, authentically, organically weaving those money stories through the content, and not, because we're not a transactional brand, right? We have to, get people to know us, to like us, to consider us, and that's how we do it through some of the influencers and the different content that we put out there.
I like that. So again, Alfa Romeo, I Googled, when are influencers going away? And they're not. But in all seriousness, right, I think all of us were always trying to be ahead of the curve. And so I'm like, is this thing going to stick? Is this really going to last? And influencers are here to stay. But one of the things that I've learned, and I really want to convey to you, is that don't be afraid of the micro-influencer. And remember that the key term of quality over quantity. So, all right, great, so-and-so's got 20 million followers. But what I have seen, and we work with influencers quite a bit with Alfa Romeo and a number of our different brands under the Stellantis umbrella, is that it tends to come off much more organic, similar to what you've said about there's a real story there. The individual is utilizing the car when they're going to, an event in Palm Springs or whatnot, and they can kind of share that journey with you, and they happen to be in an Alfa Romeo, and they look real good, and so does the car, right? So there's that, and also their actual followers tend to be more engaged as well. If you want to fight me on this, that's fine. I'll be available at lunch. But that's really what I see. And I apologize. There's a gentleman here from Shinola, and he spoke a bit too about like, I don't always have the budget. Amen. But I've got product, and so that's something again. Really try to focus on as well with our with influencers.
So real quick, for us, we had to take a step back from what we were doing before and look at the numbers, right? So we were playing in Auburn Hills, and, we were calling ourselves the Detroit Pistons, but we were really in Auburn Hills, right? A suburb of Detroit. And so our ownership team, executive team, saw the value in bringing the team, once the opportunity came, bringing the team to actually be in the city of Detroit. And so that shifted what our brand voice and our brand messaging was going to be, because, at the time, the numbers was our average season ticket holder was a middle-aged white guy. And we're going into Detroit, which is the blackest city in America. So now we have to shift our brand voice to be inclusive and not just rinse and repeat things that we've been doing over and over. So one of the things that we did was we hired Big Sean to be our creative director of innovation. And so that was kind of like a trickle-down effect of now we are authentically tapping into the culture of the city of Detroit. instead of saying, hey fans, hey Pistons fans, we're saying, what up, though, Pistons fans? And we ingrained that into our social messaging, ingrained it into new drafts that come into Detroit. Now we're telling them, hey, we're not just saying, hey, what's up? We're saying, what up, though? And putting the Cartier buffs on him when he's, putting on his new draft hat. So those are just some things that we did differently. In one of our mantras was different by design, because we wanted people to know in the city that we're not just here, we're not just a building downtown Detroit, but we want to tap in, we want to resonate, and we want to literally speak the language that you're speaking.
I mean, for me, we're kind of on the other side of it, because we're managing those influencers, we're creating them. So a lot of times, Pensole is a traditional school. People look at us as oh, I go to school and I leave. For us, we have a whole bunch of creative people who are coming in our doors, and when they're exiting, they're now looking for guidance on how I could do something with the Pistons, how I could do something with Ally. So for us, we're sitting in the middle. We're teaching them how to be better influencers, as much as you don't like it. But the truth is, the one thing I'm saying to them all the time is, alignment, make sure you're not just taking it for the bag, because we live in a get the bag culture. Make sure there's an alignment of who you're going to partner with. And the one thing I think that influence are not doing well or building over time. So starting something small, to your point earlier, of having a micro influencer, there's something very powerful about taking someone from 3,000 followers, and by the next year, they're at 100,000 because of your support. And we don't look at it from that angle a lot of times. We're just looking at it, how do I get the 100,000 person versus grow the person from 3,000 to 100,000?
All really great answers. I'm going to flip this real quick, and being in your hometown and we're sitting in your house, I'm going to direct this at Aaron. Understanding sports partnership strategies and, the era where digital transformation and how we're leaning more towards creators and influencers, I'm curious how traditional sports franchises like the Detroit Pistons are evolving your fan engagement approaches. Specifically, how do you balance the integration of online and offline strategies, and then how do you creating a cohesive fan experience?
So, understanding the culture and everything we do, we try to do it organically and authentically. We know that Detroit is, well, you might not know, Detroit is a flashy city. It'll be a Tuesday night. People are coming to the game with Gucci pants, shirt, socks, and then it's dang, it's Tuesday. Why are you? So, but we understood that and we leaned into it. And so one of the things that we did, we introduced the swag cam. And so it went crazy, went viral. And it started off from just showing, people's outfit. Fans that are coming to games, we're just showing their outfit. And then it turned into, now we had a horde of people congregating in a section to show off their chains, their bling, their earrings, their grills, and we leaned into it. And so that became just a kind of iconic platform to now fans are coming to the game just to show off their new outfit. They're going to Nordstrom's and to buy this fancy outfit so they can come to the game that Friday night. And we leaned even further because we call that In It From Our City night. And so now we're not doing it on Tuesdays. We only do it on Fridays because Fridays are our In It From Our City nights. But I want to touch on what Mike Dene alluded to earlier about fan engagement. I've been here since 2014. I've seen the evolution of technology and integrating, creativity into the brand via storytelling. I think we got really smart about storytelling and creating content that, tells the story of our brand. And so one video that went crazy was a simple video of just Cade Cunningham making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And so that video outperformed any, super produced video that we put together. And we saw that, and, we saw the value of humanizing our players. and then, capturing that moment. And so I like these opportunities because I get to brag on what my teammates are doing. So one of them was sitting back there. So, but yeah, hopefully that answered your question.
No, that was great.
I would, just to jump in real quick, I will say too, like on the brand side that has partnerships with, teams like the Detroit Pistons, that's one of the things that we're always looking for too, right? Is that not every fan can be at the game, at the track, at wherever, but having a property or team that you partner with that's able to give that behind the scenes, give that, sense of like, oh, like I can still access what's going on at the team and things like that, and finding that natural way to weave in the brand too is super important. So that's one thing that we're always looking for, is that, yeah, like that behind the scenes, humanizing the athlete's content and being a part of that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's no secret. I mean, everyone knows, we set the record last season for most losses. But we were 12th in the league in attendance, so it's amazing when you look at a losing team, but also one of the leading teams in attendance. And so we can't control what happens on the court as much as I would love to get out there and play. My job is here in this building, and so I'm trying to, create that experience. And so that just tells us that fans are enjoying the experience of being in our building. They're enjoying the content that we're pushing out. They're enjoying the influencers that we partner up with, because, we're tapping into their fans and their people that they look up to and are, and they want to be synonymous with us because of it.
Awesome. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. Moving beyond traditional sports for a moment, niche sports have experienced a tremendous growth, right? So, getting out of the Big Five or the Big Six or whatever it is, each of those niche sports are starting to cultivate their own kind of like fandom and fan base. And I know us at Teton Ridge, we see a lot of that moving in Western sports. There's been massive growth, and we're seeing it all tied to culture and family and so on and so forth. So I'm curious to know, given this trend, how does the influencer ecosystem in these emerging sports differ from mainstream sports? And then how are you each in your organizations approaching partnerships and influencers on that scale, and the investments you make in these other sports compared to, look, the NFL is massively expensive. Not everybody can be with the NFL. So what's the strategy there, and how do you guys approach that?
All right, so I'll take this question in a little bit of a different direction, because we are not really in niche sports, but I will say, although we do have some pretty major properties and teams, we're not partnering with the NFL, with the MLB, NHL, things like that, because we don't have these massive budgets, right? So instead, we are really prescriptive of like who we are partnering with and ensuring that there's storytelling available, right? That we're telling that story. We're not necessarily going in and just, plastering our logo over a stadium because we have the bankroll to do that, right? We have to be really careful on where we're investing, and we want to partner with teams and properties that want to truly partner with us, right? That, sure, we can write a check and off you go, but so that's really important when we're going through that whole process of who are we partnering with next, right? And influencers are definitely a massive part of that. When we sign these deals, we're going to come in there, we're going to bring in best-in-class on-site activation, we're going to scale with the media, but we're going to add in those influencers as well to, like we talked about before, create that extension of the property and the team, to create that accessibility, for the fans. And so yeah, I know it's not a direct answer, but just kind of how I think through that.
So it's funny because you mentioned the word mainstream sports, and I'm like, what's mainstream? I like, because in a blink of an eye, I mean, you know what I mean? Like 3 weeks ago, my dad's playing pickleball. Now all of a sudden, everybody's playing pickleball. It's just sports become very popular very quickly. For instance, Alfa Romeo competed in Formula One for the past 6 years. We stopped competing at the end of last year, and it's a global sport, right? But the U.S. thinks that like the F1 is brand new, but it's not. It's been around for years and years and years. What made it popular, thankfully, was a little TV show called Drive to Survive on Netflix. And it gained popularity beyond belief here in the U.S. The viewership just escalated. And Alfa Romeo could not have been a part of it at a better time. But now, did I make that happen? No. Was it serendipity and a lot of other great things that made it happen? Yes. What we were able to do is essentially then capitalize on that. So some of these sports, and what I haven't heard us really talk about much is something to think about, like with Alfa Romeo, is that we're international and we sell very well in Italy. We are the police car in Italy, but I am selling to a different demographic in a different way here in the US, and I have to keep that in mind with my branding. But I say that because, again, Formula One is this global sport, but I was only 3 out of the 33 races, and so again, I have to be cognizant of how am I marketing that, what type of influencers am I using, and whatnot. A lot of times what we would do with Alfa Romeo and Formula One races, there was an Austin, Miami, and then a Vegas race, and oftentimes we would host influencers that, again, it made sense, it felt organic, and they would create content around the opportunity to be there with the Alfa, on behalf of the Alfa Romeo team.
So real quick, how many of you watched the Olympics this year? So my takeaway from the Olympics was Snoop Dogg. So I talked to my mom, and she was like, oh, yeah, I was watching equestrian, and saw Snoop Dogg, and I just love Snoop Dogg. I was like, first of all, Mom, why are you watching horseback riding? You've never watched that before. But she was watching it because of Snoop Dogg. And so they invested, I think, $8 million into having him going into these different niche sports, and it paid off. And so that's a model that we adopt here. And so one of my favorite collaborations that, Bilal, our VP, brought to life was the Jay Dilla collaboration. Jay Dilla was a very, prominent producer, DJ in the city of Detroit. Not a lot of people know his story, but he's responsible for a lot of music, inspo from people like Nas, Common, Questlove. So we wanted to tell that story, but we are a basketball organization. We're not into music. We are not musically gifted. That's not our area. So we had to bring on someone who could be the face of this collaboration, and so we brought on Royce da 5'9", and we told the story through his lens, and it was a merch collaboration, and that had, very many tentacles, and we showed up in rooms and in places that we hadn't been before because of Royce's influence. He was able to take it on Joe Budden's podcast because of his relationship with Joe Budden. Angela Yee because of his relationship with Angela Yee. So that was an approach that we took to try to elevate and tell the story authentically while also tapping into an influencer.
Okay. So full disclosure, when I started talking to each of these wonderful people, had some ideas and was chatting with Lauren and chatting with Kara and then Aaron, and then I kind of got to Dion, and I was trying to figure out how the college aspect fits into this panel with 3 brand marketers. So after talking with him, he enlightened me tremendously. So quick question for you is, how do you see the role of educational institutions playing in sports engagement, and particularly for PLC with your focus on design and business? How do those collaborations come about, and how do you approach those partnerships?
I mean, for
especially here in Detroit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think what we've done a really good job of is leaning into the community side. People come to games for 2-3 hours, and they have an experience. But how do you extend that experience past the hardwood? Is where PLC steps in. A lot of times you think about a design school, you're thinking about designing a product that someone's going to put on their feet, that they're going to wear. But we're also in the business of designing experiences that have a tail way after the game is done, right? So that's where we step in. And we worked with Bilal, we worked with many members. Sometimes I feel like I work at the Pistons.
Nice sneakers.
Yeah. I'll tell you about that later. But I think, that's the unique piece where it's like, as a sports team, you're not only the on the court product, you're off court as well. Like, how do you create moments, create experiences for people to continue talking about what you're doing well after the game? For us, it's about education. Where Pensole sits in the education landscape, we're very different in that we want people to go from experience to the industry. We don't want people to go to school for 4 years and end up working at Starbucks. We would like you to actually go through our programs and have an opportunity waiting for you. So what we've done a really good job of with the partnership with the Pistons is giving people career opportunities through our partnerships, and that's what we stand on.
Awesome. I think we have a couple of minutes, so I kind of wanted to open it up to any of you to talk about what you're excited for, projects you're working on, things that are coming down the pipe for the balance of 2024 and into 2025. If there's things you want to share, I don't know if we all have to sign NDAs, but feel free to tell us what you're up to.
Yeah, so I know earlier you heard Bridget Sponsky speak and talk about the work that we're doing within women's sports. So I think you'll continue to see a lot of that. Some things that hopefully will come to fruition. I just can't talk about them next year. And you'll see a lot of, again, women's sports work. You'll see more of us in the USGA golf space as well. We just kicked that off about 6 months ago. So excited about that.
And they're gonna have to sign an NDA. This is a lot of pressure. I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer this question without.
You have a season coming up, so you have to have stuff to talk about.
No, I mean, I don't want to. My boss is sitting right here, so. But I'll just say, we're going to continue to do things that don't scale, right? I think that has been kind of like our bread and butter. And what I mean by that is we'll send a custom jersey to an influencer and without even them having interacted with our brand ever before, just because. For example, we responded to a DM from a guy named Wax who lived in Paris, France, and he was the biggest Detroit Pistons fan of all time. Like, the most random thing you could ever receive. And why is this white guy in Paris, this Parisian, a fan of the Detroit Pistons? And so he wrote us, and, we responded because, we like to do things that don't scale. We responded, we sent him a jersey, a custom jersey with his name on the back. He, just kind of like passed out from that, right? And then 2 years later, the NBA announces the Pistons are playing in Paris. I think it was against the Chicago Bulls. So if we didn't respond to his DM and establish that relationship, we wouldn't have had, he became kind of like an ambassador for us. He was letting us know where we could have, the players can go for, their, nice gatherings. And, he was telling us the other influencers we could connect with for the games. And so he became like our ambassador. But if we just ignored that DM, we would have never had that opportunity. And so, we have a team that's dedicated to responding to fan letters that we receive. We dedicated to sending or distributing 50,000 basketballs to the youth every single year. Those are things that we can't really scale per se, but we do them because, it could lead to scalable platforms down the road.
You sound like a adult beverage guy. What I'm looking forward to, we've been working with the Pistons on a program called Marked for the last 2 years. We're going into our 3rd year. People have been commenting on the sneakers that I'm wearing. The cool part about the program, everyone's looking at my feet right now, but is, we have, I say over the last 2 years, over 60 high school artists that come into this same room. We give them an hour to design on an all-white pair of sneakers. Then we shortlist it down to 10 artists, give them education on how design actually works. Last year, we got a pair of sneakers put into production, which I'm wearing right now. But outside of it just being the sneaker design and all the cool stuff, what's really cool is that we give these young people an opportunity to express themselves creatively. And on top of that, a lot of times we're focused on just the young person, but the amount of parents and teachers that show up to this program has been so impressive and influential for not only our team, the Pistons team, but the community. So going into the 3rd year now, what we're trying to look for is a retail partner to sell the sneakers through. So what I was saying earlier is it's also impressive to start something small and build it into something big. So I'm super excited to see where that goes on our 3rd year of getting a sneaker made. And no, I do not have these anymore. So, but yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
I already asked him his size already. Okay, I think we're breaking for lunch, so everybody can go eat and stop hating on us now.